Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. 2 wins? I don't know, like 1.1. I don't even know if the last one should count. Thank you for not giving me Azazel again. I would have had to do some real crazy stuff to keep it entertaining. QS71CXVW. I played as Samson fairly recently as well. I mean, at least it's not like, you know, we're just randoming the keeper twice in a row. You know how your boy do and all that. Yeah, we got off on a, yesterday was or the last video I should say was very snobby. We talked about wine and ales and sommeliers, and today we got to get down to brass tacks. Have you ever drunk Bailey's from a shoe? No, I see it's a reference to a British television program I have not seen, but I have been on Reddit before. So I'm very familiar with a lot of British television via quotes, even though I've never seen the show. Have you tried turning it on and off again? The thing about Arsenal is they always try to walk it in. He knows. I'm not insulting British television, okay? Peep Show. Amazing television. The story of Mark Corrigan and his friend Jeremy, who I've forgotten the last name of. But anyway, great television program. Other great British television, I'm sure it exists. I have a bias because one of my friends told me, hey, you bro. I mean, she didn't say bro. It was like 12 years ago. She was like, if you like Friends, you gotta watch Coupling. It's like British Friends, but way better. And I said, that's cool. I don't really like Friends, so... And before I knew it, she already had the DVD in the DVD player. And then, you know, we watched an episode. It's one of those weird times. I think this is where a little bit of my, like... You know, why I don't like being recommended media comes from, to some extent. And it's a very selfish thing to say, but, you know, if you're recommended media, that's fine. But if you watch that media with the person who recommends it, you're kind of like, you're not any longer just watching a television program. You're having like a friend audition. You know, like I don't want to make my housemate, who is also my friend, feel bad. So, you know, when things that were supposed to be funny but perhaps were not that funny happened, we all made an effort to laugh. And then after the episode, you know, she's like, how'd you guys like it? And we were like, it's okay. She's like, do you want to watch any more? And we were like, no, I think I'm good. Like, one is fine for tonight. And then we never watched it again. But I don't know if she held it against us. I wouldn't go that far. All I'm saying is, you know, it's an awkward situation. You ever have that? Like, you play a video or a song for your friend. You're like, yo, you got to check this out. And then, like, you know, 10% of the way through, you're like, dude, this sucks. Why was I ever... What's wrong with me? Why would I ever recommend this to somebody? And they're, like, nodding along. It's even worse if they're wearing headphones. It's very uncomfortable. You know, I have it happen from time to time. Sometimes it happens with, like, anime. Because, like, Kate, she's still, maybe once every 6 months, she's like, I'm gonna get this guy into anime. And then we'll, like, some of them go. I will always, my anime appetite, I could watch, like, one Studio Ghibli film a week for the next 6 months. And I would look forward to it. But when it comes to, like, serialized television shows, I'm not saying all anime is bad. All I'm saying is the show has to be like a 12 out of 10 in order to hook me, really. Like, we watched Gurren Lagann, and I know a lot of people, when I mention it, they're like, yes, it's so good. I thought it kind of sucked. And we watched Cowboy Bebop, and I was like, all right, this show's good. I can watch a few episodes of this in succession, for sure, without feeling like, you know, like I'm getting bored or anything like that. So I'll give you Cowboy Bebop, no doubt about it. I'm excited for Evangelion to come to Netflix within the next couple of months. And who knows, maybe we'll do the podcast. I don't know. It's still up on the table once it's available on a legal distribution network. People, they're also like, well, you could just get it right now if you wanted. Yeah, but like the peak time to launch that podcast would be not just when it's easy for me to access, but when there's, you know, a lot of public interest and groundswell involved in it as well, and people can watch along. Anyway, it's called Marketing, Sweetheart. Look it up. I don't want the body. I'll take it, though. But then we watched, like, Psycho-Pass, and it's just something, and it's kind of, it's the real part of, we joke, you know, about anime from time to time. We say, like, you know, on the show, it's largely 1,000-year-old ancient goddesses trapped in the body of, like, a middle school student, or, like, we're going to a high school, but every student also has, like, you know, a god inside of them or something like that. But the thing that gets me with anime, some animes, not all, I'm not an authority by any stretch. Here's what turns me off a lot of the time, is the first episode establishing with a ton of exposition what the premise of the show is. You know, like, the reason I kind of blew out a Psycho-Pass early was, like, the first episode was, like, I hate when people just talk about stuff from video essays as if it's, like, the only way to craft a story, but I'm gonna be what I hated here. Anyway, it's a very good example of a situation, I think, where you should show rather than tell. Instead, they're like, you know, this is the exact circumstance of what's happening here. We're gonna remove all mystery from it for now and turn it into a clinical, and, you know, I know it's a reasonably well-liked show. I'm not trying to make any enemies. I'm just saying that's where I kind of fall apart, is the over-explaining. Okay? At least we got a spacebar item of some real usefulness. And I will go to the curse room here. Which is why, like, let me give you a perfect counterexample. In the Studio Ghibli film, Porco Rosso, my man, Porco Rosso, is a pig. And for the first 45 minutes of the movie, it's barely even mentioned, you know? Logical questions, oh, that was very dumb, rise up. Why is he a pig? You know, why is everybody else a human being? People seem to recognize that he is porcine, but they don't actually, you know, they don't act like it's the most absurd thing that's ever happened. Like, oh my God, there's an anthropomorphic pig that also flies fighter planes. But then, you know, throughout the course of the story, you know, his affliction is alluded to, not actually necessarily explicitly touched upon, but alluded to, and is so much more effective as a result. I feel like a lot of televised anime that I've watched would have started like, my name is Porco Rosso. 30 years ago, a curse from a witch turned me into a pig, and now I fly for the honor of my, you know, fallen comrade. You know, you get the idea. Instead, you learn that, you know, over the course of the movie. Oh, you fool! Over the course of the movie, from the character themselves. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. All right. I have seen. I mean, I get a reputation sometimes as a little bit of a quote-unquote anime hater. If we were to look at foreign films, the country from which I've seen the most foreign films is probably America. But, you know, let's treat those as domestic because of, you know, the fact that I live next door. The country that I've seen the most movies from that's not the United States of America is almost certainly Japan. You know, Korea definitely I've seen, you know, a few dozen, without a doubt. France, you know, I've seen a few. Sweden, I've seen a few. I've definitely seen a couple of Danish movies. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I've seen, for Sweden, I've seen, like, you know, Let the Right One In, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and The Seventh Seal, and, you know, Wild Strawberries, and a couple of the other Bergman films. And then for, I'm like, Dutch, I've seen, you know, The Hunt with Mads Mikkelsen. Fantastic movie. I'm trying to think of other examples. Like, in Russian, I've seen Night Watch. In Italian, I've seen Gomorrah. Korean, like, Old Boy. I mean, I guess Snowpiercer is English, but, you know, The Host, plenty of stuff. I knew I was going to get hit there, to be honest. But Japan's gotta be number 2, you know? Seen in a lot of Studio Ghibli, Your Name, Wolf Children, Summer Wars. I'm trying to think of like live action Japanese movies I've seen. That might be a much smaller amount. A couple of Kurosawa films. So it's not that I haven't given them a chance. It's just more like, maybe it's like an acquired taste, like, you know, coffee. You know, you gotta, at first it's a little bitter because it's different than everything you've sampled before. Once you get, you know, fully immersed in it, you're like, okay, now that I know that this is a trope that happens all the time, you know, I can look past it and get into some deeper appreciation or at least understanding. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I shouldn't have even brought it up because now I will get all the trip-sitting advice and I'm not going to pay attention to it anyway. I'm just saying, it's not that I'm philosophically opposed to Japanese animation. It's more just like, maybe I haven't... I found some that have struck my fancy, but I don't know. Here's my thing, okay? Don't shoot the messenger on this one. I should really try to get enough money to get the blood bag. Don't shoot the messenger on this one, okay? When I watch a good animated Japanese movie, it doesn't make me want to watch more anime. It makes me want to watch more good movies, regardless of the genre that they belong in and where they're from. That shouldn't be a statement that ruffles any feathers, I think. I'm just throwing it out there, you know? The only exception is, I guess, you know, the more Studio Ghibli stuff I watch, the more I'm like, I get it. You know, everything's its own kind of like fairy tale in a modern sense. So, you know, I'd love to watch more of these. And we will. But first we got to work our way through the other modern classics. All of Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in advance of Infinity War Endgame. I know, that's why I said it, okay? Is open myself up to that kind of criticism to make it... You know, first I judge other people, and then I open up my own weak spot, and people go, there's this weak spot, get him, and I get shot, and I'm like, you fools. I'm actually shooting myself. Okay. This great damage, but definitely a little bit lower on the HP front. I would have thought IV bag or blood bag would have a better chance to pay out there. It's very strange, the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, that they're... I mean, I don't want to spoil anything regarding Infinity War right now, so I'm going to talk in vague generalities, but if you haven't seen Infinity War by now, kind of operating under... Like, it's on Netflix, right? I'm kind of operating under the assumption that you don't care that much about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so I'm not going to let it, like, compromise the bit. If you have to turn off the video, that's fine. But you could also just pause the video and then go watch Infinity War. It's on Netflix, if you care about the spoiler that much. Anyway. All I'm going to say is that there's marketing. I mean, people were like, at the end of Infinity War, they were like, some of what's happened seems a little strange, given that there's sequels to movies coming out that would seem to be precluded by some of the events in Infinity War. And we were just like, you know what? Just go with it for now. And I think that's still kind of where we're at. But now there's like trailers for those movies that are out at the same time as the trailers for Avengers Endgame. And I mean, at the end of the day, I understand. I've been, you know, I read Marvel Studios, r/Marvel Studios sometimes. I'm a scholar, basically. And people go, hey, that's just what comic books are like. You know, finally the cinematic audience is getting used to what comic book audiences or comic book readers have been living with for like 20 years, where there's, oh, I don't know. And this is not spoilers where I just went, oh, I don't know first, you know, but in order to cover it up is, you know, alternate dimensions and, oh, that was all a dream sequence, or, you know, time traveling shenanigans or parallel universes and blah, blah, blah. I'm always impressed, you know. I was impressed. I know we talked about Marvel very recently. Just, hey, you know, the conversation just happens to be flowing right now. I apologize. But I remember saying in, like, 2014, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, that, well, even in 2012, you know, I was one of those guys who, when the Avengers ended, I Googled, like, you know, purple guy, post-credits Avengers, and I was like, who the heck is Thanos? And, you know, now, Thanos is like a household name. You know, I think that's probably, well, maybe just below a household name. He's a household name for anybody under the age of, like, 40, probably. Same thing in, like, 2014. I was like, man, these Marvel filmmakers are doing a fantastic job of, like, taking the nerdiest properties that they have and, like, sterilizing them a little bit, but also making them much more digestible for a mass audience. Like, who the heck even knew who Ronan the Accuser was prior to Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Now he's, like, part of the Captain Marvel lore, and, you know, people that are, like, cool and 5 years younger than me are like, here's my interpretation of what's going to happen in the Skrull War in Captain Marvel. And I'm like, yo, shouldn't you be, like, you know, you're supposed to be wearing thick glasses with, you know, tape on them before you talk about stuff like that. And they're like, no, actually, I'm the CEO of a Fortune 1000 company. Well, what's the matter? Couldn't it be 500 less? Gimme. Thank you. All these are good. I'm just saying, they're doing an amazing job of that. Because, like, you know, back in, let's say, 2006, you know, is the year I turned 18, I was a nerd. I wasn't really a comic book nerd, but I had a friend who was a comic book nerd. What did he read? Superman. That was all it took to be a comic book nerd back then. Was like, he, once every couple of, well, he didn't even read, like, the modern DC releases. He read all, like, the classics, you know, like Death of Superman, and stuff along those lines. I'm trying to think of the other one that was really big that he was into, but thank you. I gotta tell you, I don't know if we should even play that blood bank anymore. It makes me very sad, though. You know what? Start taking my keys. Now, that's like, you know, normal stuff to be aware of. Blow it up. I screwed it up something fierce. But we also did find the secret room. What's happening? Nothing useful, unfortunately. I just refuse to believe we're not going to get a payout here. Of something. Blood bank, please. I beg you. Yikes. Yeah, I'm not willing to gamble anymore. Just is what it is, I guess. All I'm saying is it's very impressive. And you know, I understand if you're annoyed that superhero movies are very popular at the box office. I get annoyed when some things are popular at the box office as well. For example, old people singing, i.e., The Greatest Showman, Mamma Mia, any Broadway musical converted into a worse version of itself, cinematically speaking. You know, when I see that those have been, I mean, The Greatest Showman made like $1 billion. And it's still, Hugh Jackman is going on a live tour for The Greatest Showman. Why does it bother me? Well, why does it bother you that, you know, superhero movies, you know, come out 4 times a year and are popular? You know, it's the same sort of thing. Why does anybody enjoying anything else bother any of us? I don't know the answer. All I know is I'm a slave to the vaporwave. It's not like everybody was excited about cool movies, like, you know, back when I was, so bad there. Thank God we got the spirit art anyway. Back when I was 16 anyway. I don't know if I would say that movies now are better, but I certainly, if you're going to say like, hey, movies back in the old days were better than they are now, I certainly hope the old days were not 2006, okay? Yes, Children of Men came out in 06 or 07, Pan's Labyrinth. That was a good couple of months of the multiplex, no doubt about it. Please give me something better. But in general, I think we're in roughly the same position. You know, like, people always forget about the bad movies because, you know, the bad movies that came out within the past year are very high in the forefront of the modern mind, you know? Everybody remembers, you know, Watson and Holmes and the Emoji Movie and, you know, Boss Baby and stuff like that. People forget about the movies from like 12 years ago, 15 years ago, you know? Doom. Stealth, the movie about it's a jet, but also it's got a rogue AI inside of it, and we gotta stop that rogue AI, boys. And also Jessica Biel. You know, the bad memories from those periods tend to dim. You know, I think that's just true about nostalgia in general, is that, you know, you tend to remember the high points more than the lowlights, I should say. I think to some extent that's true. Now, you got to be careful, because I think it can lead to a radical centrist opinion that I very commonly am guilty of having, which is that everything is the same, or as it's always been, or alternatively, you know, one step further towards cynicism is everything is as bad as it's always been, and it's always been bad. I don't believe that, you know? There's shades involved. Like, superhero movies are way better than they were when I was young. Even, like, when I go back and I see, like, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, I don't think of them as bad movies, but I definitely think that they seem to be unstuck in time. You know, they're not... They feel very different than modern superhero movies, and I would probably be inclined to say worse, but, you know, it is a matter of opinion, but anyway. But there's definitely some stuff that's, like, worse now. I'm trying to think of what it is so I can fulfill the bit. You know, let me hit you with a hot take. Pixar. Still great. I was gonna say good, but I don't mean that. Still great. And I'm not gonna go to bat for Finding Dory or The Incredibles 2, both of which I thought were pretty good. However, I will go to bat for Inside Out, and I'm surprised that I have to do it. I think Inside Out is a fantastic, original animated film. A lot of people are like, you know, I guess it's a little too on the nose. This is what happens again, and I mentioned it a couple videos ago, but you know, when you grow up with something and you don't let it go, you forget that it's still made for children. You know, like, don't take this the wrong way, but the Star Wars fans, that's the... Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know the start of The Last Jedi, the comic relief stuff with Hux is, like, really bad, is very cringeworthy, and certainly, like, not really befitting a movie of a serious stature, but it is also, you know, these movies are made for an audience of predominantly, like, 14 to 21-year-olds across the whole world, so you gotta kind of hit them with that broad appeal, you know? You're not gonna step in there with, like, a Bill Hicks bit and have it all come together for the whole audience. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm not going to bat for Star Wars, I'm just saying. You gotta recognize, you know, anything with broad appeal, it kind of runs the risk. I.e., I used to be with it, and then they changed what it was, and now it scares me and intimidates me, and it'll happen to you too. Or should, at least. Please. DPS. I beg you. We're taking a long time on this run. We're also very close to becoming Guppy. It could happen. I should be using Death's List more appropriately for sure as well, but... Anyway, my point with Pixar is not that... I walked right over the spikes. It's not that Pixar now is bad, but I would say worse. I mean, there was like 15 years where every Pixar movie was considered basically a masterpiece. And I remember Cars came out, and people were like, it's kind of meh. And then there was like, you know, don't shoot the messenger on this one, but like Brave, and then Cars 2, and Planes Search and Rescue, and, you know. The shine doesn't stay on forever, is all I'm saying. Things ebb and flow. You gotta be wary about nostalgia. I think what's important to keep in mind is that I'm 30, as mentioned. I've gone through a couple of different waves of nostalgia, you know? When I was in my teens, I was not nostalgic at all. I was living, like, more in the moment. I wasn't like, man, when I was 10, everything was better. But then, when I was in my young adulthood, like, you know, early 20s, I was like, dude, when I was in my teenage years, like, those were the days. And then when I, you know, now that I'm, you know, 30, I'm nostalgic over things that happened in like 2013, 2014, you know? So I'm nostalgic to some extent about an era where during that era, I was like, things were better before. It's like a second order, you know, nested nostalgia. So once you recognize, and Book of the Dead is definitely a better item here, that, you know, nostalgia is just your brain to some extent playing tricks on you. You know, you can start to work backwards from there. Which is why, you know, I'm going to bring it back to video game YouTubers at some point. Sorry, I didn't mean to take Guppy's head. I meant to take Book of the Dead. Is why I find a lot of video game coverage on YouTube very frustrating, because it harkens back to an era that didn't exist. Everybody is... There's like a... Man, things would have been different if Mirror's Edge was just treated properly on release, or... Man, I wish we were back in 1998, you know, the year Half-Life came out. Those were the days. I'm not saying they're not the days. I'm just saying, you know, at some point you gotta recognize that a naked nostalgia for the past to some extent might be clouding the way that you feel about the present and the future in a way that's unfair to that time period. You know, the time that you think sucks right now is, if you're nostalgic from a media standpoint, is gonna, or if, yeah, no, I mean what I said there. You know, you might think it sucks now. And this is gonna probably not blow your mind, but, you know, the 15-year-olds that are playing Fortnite right now, when they're 30, they're gonna be a little nostalgic for 2018. Man, when Fortnite was popping off, those were the days, dude. You know, nostalgia is based on, I think it's based on where you're at. I think. I don't know, I find nostalgia nice, but sometimes toxic, I guess is what I'm getting at. I always look to the Star Wars prequels for that. Because those were the movies that came out on the crest between my adulthood and my teenage years. You know, like Revenge of the Sith came out when I was 17. So I was forming my... Dude, please. I will take this. I was forming real opinions about media for like the first time in my life. Around the release of these movies, right? And my opinion is that they all basically suck really bad, and I've seen them recently, except for Revenge of the Sith, which is underrated because of a few laughable moments that are really bad and ill-advised, like the no, extremely dumb. It's one of, there's multiple times throughout the prequels where you just go, somebody had to say no to this guy, and nobody nutted up. Everyone went, you know, we're in for a penny, in for a pound. But anyway, there's now people who are like, the new Star Wars movies are horrible, but the prequels are underrated. I shouldn't say I guarantee, okay? And if you're a prequel fan, I don't care. Like at all. But I would be very surprised if you looked at the demographic of people who think the new Star Wars are worse than the prequels. I would be very surprised if they were not predominantly, you know, born in the 1990s and 2000s. I might be wrong. I don't say this to be like, oh, I'm some all-knowing, you know, specter. Like, I know exactly, I've sussed it out, I've solved the problem. What I'm saying is not that people in their 20s and 30s underrate the new Star Wars films. What I'm saying is everybody overrates movies that they saw when they were too young to be able to form basically a coherent, objective opinion about it. You know, like if you were to take people who who rate The Phantom Menace as a 7 out of 10 or better, I would be stunned if they didn't trend towards being, you know, maybe like 10 years old in, well, let's say even younger, maybe like 5 years old in 1999. And that's fine. You know, I got movies from that era that I'm nostalgic for as well. Like, I mean, like, Austin Powers is probably a pretty good example. I think if you show, like, someone that's born in the year 2002, if you show them Austin Powers, they're like, this isn't funny at all. In fact, it's actually downright offensive. And I would be like, I know. It's great. I know every line. I'm just saying it clouds your perception to some extent. Excuse me. Hi, cats. What are you doing? All I hear is claws on hardwood. Every single scratch is another 75 cents out of our deposit. This run is very bad. And I don't say that to garner sympathy. Just where it's at right now, it has plenty of opportunity to come back. But anytime it takes you 28 minutes to, you know, get to the mom fight, you're probably in a spotty situation. And we're definitely in a spotty situation. We do, you know what? I hadn't even thought about it. Let's get a little wacky. I am thinking maybe 3 luck plus bloody lust plus a theme allows us to get value out of taking damage, especially with a bone heart. So I'm willing to give it a try. Maybe not on this room, because it's easy already. I'm also, you know, I'm trying to make Death's List work. It might not seem like I'm putting that much effort into it. You would be precisely correct. But, you know, trying might not be the right word. I'm hoping to make Death's List work. You know what? Thank God. Okay, so you're not gonna love this if you're a very conservative Isaac player, but on rooms with multiple enemies, where we can actually realistically get the hearts if they were to be created, we're gonna try to use a theme. I'm also like desperately trying to make Death's List work. I think it's one of those items, you know, maybe it's well balanced and that's why it's annoying, but I always think it should be better. When you go through the cost of doing this, oh, that's right, we have, because we have the magnet, we should expect to be able to get a return on our investment there.
Go.
I don't even remember what we had. I'm saving my voice for when the run gets exciting. We're not quite there yet. I don't mind having a Bone Lord. He's screwing up Death's List. But you know what? Death's List has had its chance to pay out with meaningful options, and instead we're consistently getting, like, a consumable. So that's what you get. So our strategy is kind of working. And, you know, it's always encouraging when you can try to make a run like this work. You know, I want to stop short of saying that, you know, we're taking a run that had no chance and turning it into a victory, because I obviously, you know, don't believe that that's the case. However, we're taking a run that is definitely underwhelming, especially statistically speaking from, you know, an on-paper standpoint. And we're turning it into something a little bit more impressive, hopefully. Because we have a bone heart, I am still willing to... I don't really care about that golden key. I'm still willing to go pretty deep on the... Athame plays. Should probably stop using it on enemies who... Oh my word. Sucks for that guy. On enemies who will kill all other enemies when they die, or on situations where all enemies will die thanks to our bone heart, but, you know, you get the idea. Dude, we got a posse. Google DeepMind, I said posse, okay? Don't freak out. I'm not trying to corrupt the nation's youth. All I'm trying to get them to do is recognize that media that came out when I was a teenager is better than media that came out when my parents were teenagers or when the viewers were teenagers. Mom's coin purse. And a Krampus fight. Thank God for Goathead. Head of Krampus. Well, you know, you take the good, you take the bad, you take what's left, and then you got the facts of life.
I found pills.
Worried about the bone heart, but it doesn't really matter. Like, without being super, like, laissez-faire about it. Okay, we've lost it. But even losing it, it shouldn't matter too much. As long as we, you know, pay attention to where we're going with the theme. I don't know, we're throwing a lot of HP away here at this point. Even if there is a good reason. That reason is not holding water right now. Will this work? Yeah, it worked okay. Sure. Book of Revelations gives us Bookworm. Book of Secrets gives us some vision. Book of Shadows, you know, like, I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong. The invincibility is actually, like, very good. When you die, are you going to give me a battery charge? That'd be pretty incredible. But I gotta focus on this run now. It's really like, I think if you look at this run, you're going like, NL, you're complaining about something you shouldn't be complaining about. Look at it, you got 11 damage. What are you complaining about? What I'm complaining about is the fact that we have 11 rate of fire. We don't have 11 damage, we have 9.5 damage. We have 11 rate of fire. 11 rate of fire is like really, really, really bad. In order for me to be happy with this rate of fire, I would need like, I don't know, at least 15 damage. We can probably make the run work. It just feels like we're like substantially below average here. Like we've tripled our DPS or more since the start of the game. But actually, now that I think about it, a lot of that DPS is conditional on us taking damage in the first place, you know? So I don't necessarily even feel like that's that good. This could work. No, because at this, when you get 14 damage, okay, now I'm like, put your money where your mouth is. You said 15 damage would make you happy. And, am I happy? I'm happier, for sure. Yeah, maybe. But then on the next floor, we go down to, like, 6 damage again. What I'm saying is, Mom, it's just not fair. Can you please call Isaac for me and tell them that it's unfair and I should be given more damage to reach my true potential? What? Okay. Well, it saves me pushing this at least, and okay, fantastic. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. We got a great chance to make progress here. It's twice as long as our last run. I'm just ignoring the fact that it was an Azazel run. Please spawn. Yes, that's what I was looking for. Basically, that's free hits. Because we have a red heart outside. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Thank God for Goat Head. Well, Guppy's head on the first floor. No remaining Guppy items for the rest of the game. Okay, well, we should still be okay. Please, please hit me. Please! Thank you. Anytime we can get away on that one for free, I'm a happy man. You know what? I think we gotta check this. Just get, like, give me the ability to fly. It doesn't have to be like that, you know, dramatic. Just minor improvements. Beyond the bloody lust that we, of course, started with and are very happy to see. Okay, well, I am going to be a little picky about that one. I think that Bob's brain runs the risk of being pretty bad for us, actually. Where did this come from? I do not know. This is also only win 3, so, you know, you got me working pretty hard just to get my fill. And I recognize that everybody wants a thrill. Doing anything to roll the dice just one more time. We should go to the curse room. I recognize my own entitled attitude right here. I'm going, well, I made it to the cathedral. I should have a good run. Doesn't always happen. Life goes on. But the only, like, entitledness I'm trying to... Oh, thank you. I'm really trying to have right now is I've made Death's List work on, like, you know, at least 10 rooms. Please give me more statistical improvements. You know, if... That was not the right way to use that item, but... if there's shot speed, whatever. You know? I don't make the rules. I would at least be like, hey, it gave us a chance to get something else. Instead, we're just getting, like, bombs. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? How do I even fit into such a bloody big nutshell? Austin Powers. It's called comedy. Look it up, sweetheart. This is a rare run. Most Isaac runs, they go from talking about Isaac to talking about anecdotes as we get stronger and stronger. This one goes from talking about anecdotes to talking about Isaac as the run gets, you know, closer and closer to destruction. We don't even have a bunch of red hearts sitting around, so I don't really want to, you know, take damage just to kill this guy a little bit faster. It's probably not worth trying to kill him and get a demon heart out of it. I think we're better off just staying at bay. I'm telling you, 3 luck, the chest is going to change everything. Once we graduate from this cathedral and go to the chest and we get to make our own decisions, it's all going to be better. Okay. Okay. You know what? It really was. It really was. I don't know what Tech plus Tech X does. Lets you shoot while you charge. Okay, now I gotta be a man of my word. All complaints fall by the wayside now. I would still, as long as we're talking about stuff that we'd like to see, I would still love to see Death's List pay out with like a Tears upgrade, but that's I'm just throwing it out there, just as a maybe. Dude, Bookworm is pretty useful here. Sorry, I'm still just a little... I shouldn't be anxious, but I'm like a little worried just because, you know, it's still taking us a while to kill enemies, but it's taking us a while to kill enemies because we haven't made Bloody Lust work for us, but we haven't made Bloody Lust work because there's no HP on the ground. So all we need... Oh, we got a luck upgrade there. Thank you. See? I'm grateful for it. Just a couple HP upgrades and we'd be fine. Just a couple HP upgrades, or not even upgrades, just HP drops, and we could turn them into damage and start rolling. Okay, thank you. So what do we do now? Walk into this poor son of a gun. You're always hoping he pays out with a demon form, but life goes on either way. You know what? I'm willing to give you one more. Just to get that damage upgrade. We also got Beelzebub, which means we can fly. More HP, thank you. You know what? I'm willing to do it one more time. We definitely should not, but here I am. I know you're like, he's going to say it again. He's going to say, you know, we could do it one more time. I refuse. I'm actually... I think we've hit the happy medium. So in the end, this run was like kind of not very good. But I definitely, I mean, it had the tools necessary to get there. It's just like, you know, they weren't modern day tools. You know, they weren't Craftsman lifetime warranty from Sears before they went out of business quality tools. We were using like a sharp stick to make a wheel. Sure, it works, but, you know, it's going to take you a while and probably going to be a little bit of a rocky road once you get it going. What we wanted, you know, was 3D printing, AutoCAD, a robotic lathe, and so on and so forth. What we got instead was a pointy stick and a rock. Like, you ever go to a museum and have that happen? I really like museums, but even then, you know, I'm fully aware of the fact that sometimes Depending on the museum and depending on the subject matter, they can be very boring. You know, sometimes you end up at a museum that has like a very large prehistoric exhibit, but you think like, oh, prehistoric, like dinosaurs, and nah, it's just like, hey, this is a triangular rock we think that ancient, you know, Neolithic people used as a toothbrush. And you're like, really? Can we get to the cool stuff? Can you show me like some swords? I don't even know if anti-grav did anything but raise our rate of fire. Well, I'm always happy to have a win. Don't even try to force me down that road. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It was a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See you!